So I'm joined today by an old colleague of mine, Liam. Myself and Liam work together in the second battalion, and you're now an AML Director with Mercer, is it?
Yes, that's correct. Mercer Global Investments Europe, to be precise.
Yeah,
Yes.
get it right. But how's life since you left the army? Do you miss it?
Yes and no. I miss the camaraderie and the lads. I don't think you'll ever get a better bond than what you get in the army.
Yeah.
You know yourself. I don't miss the duties. I don't miss the politics that can be inside the army, and
Yeah.
I don't miss the hurry up and wait aspect. But I do miss the flexibility. I miss
Yeah.
the camaraderie, and that would be it. I miss actually going overseas as well. I think that was a great one. In fact, I only went on the one overseas trip, but it was something I wish I had done more of.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd you go? Lev, was it?
No, it was Kosovo.
Oh, okay.
Great trip.
Yeah.
Great trip. A great bunch of lads. 6 months over there, just going to the gym, doing your patrols and riot training and things of that nature. But yeah, it was a great trip.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's why that was one of my reasons for leaving as well. Like after being in Syria, I was just like couldn't be bothered doing this again. Like for another 6 months, I'm gone.
Yeah. I think that is the hard thing to juggle with the army. And when you're soldiering, when you're in soldier mode, I think most people enjoy it. You know, even though, you know, when you're going down there, you're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But when you're actually, for me anyway, when you're actually there,
it's not that bad. Is it?
Yeah, doing the soldiering, I enjoyed that. And there's no sort of monotony, or it's not sort of like, you know, when you're just sitting in the barracks and you're doing nothing, you can feel the seconds, every second feels like an hour.
Yeah.
At least when you're active and you're doing something, it feels like, oh yeah, I'm going somewhere here, I'm doing something. For me anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what overseas was. It felt like I was constantly
Right.
on doing something on the ball, like I was going somewhere, like, yeah, this is what I was meant to do. But then once I went back to the barracks, especially around the lines,
That's it, like,
yeah.
Different story. But do you remember your first day going into the army?
Yes, I do. So I actually went into the army, and I didn't know I'd be there for the week.
Right. For the first time, like?
Yeah, for the first time. I don't know what happened, but I'd only brought in enough stuff for that one day. So I went into McKee on the Monday, and my grandmother dropped me, and I remember saying to my grandmother, yeah, I'll see you, it was 2005.
Yeah.
You know, I had a mobile phone, I think, I can't remember. I remember saying, yeah, I'll see you later on, I'll be back later on, and she dropped me into the barracks, and then we're put on a bus at McKee. You know, you're signed on, you swear your oath and all of that, and then we're driven straight down to Gormanstown. We didn't get out to the weekend.
How did you see that one?
I got bottled for it for the whole week. Where's your this? Where's your that? I was like,
look, you made it through,
I made it through. Training was great.
Yeah.
It's tough though. It is tough converting from civilian life into a soldier.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be though.
What was the hardest part for you, like transitioning from, let's say, like what age did you go at?
18.
Yeah, so as like a young 18-year-old, how did you find the transition from like being a civvy, doing whatever you wanted, to going into the military?
Some parts of it were great. Some parts of it were amazing. Like being around a group of lads that you got on with so well, I like that. I always liked the camaraderie piece of the military. I like that. You know, you're in it together, you're getting sort of pieced it together. But transitioning, getting up every day, I suppose the hardest thing is giving up control. Realising that no matter what you do, it's never going to be right. No matter what you say, you're never going to be correct. You know, you've no control over what's happening in those situations. You know, it's not breaking you down. Like, they tell you to make your bed, you make your bed, and then they toss it and wreck it and scream at you. You're like, but the bed was made perfect. You know,
spent probably an hour making it.
Exactly. You know, so the hardest thing for me was, and the best lesson I learned from the army was accepting that. Just being like, okay, we go again.
Yeah. You
know, this isn't in my control. I can't change this here, so I need to just accept it and move on, and it will pass.
Yeah.
You know.
Big lesson, good lesson as well.
Yeah, it's probably the best thing I've learned in the army.
Yeah, think mine was never be first, never be last, and always be on time.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was a good one for me. But then, so you're in China now, 6 months long. Do you have any you train in Gormanstown, so
Yeah.
actually you would have spent a lot of time in the sea there as well,
Oh,
right?
in the sea, push-ups in the sea, running into the sea, getting sugar cookied, as the Americans would call it, into the sea. And the worst part of that was you would be expected to have your uniform and your boots polished every day, you know.
Yeah.
Every day your uniform and your boots would be polished. You'd have to have them both. And we only had one pair of boots, so we didn't get parade boots.
Oh, okay.
We had the I can't remember the name of them.
The old boots anyway.
Yeah, the old boots, and we'd one pair. And I think in 2-star training we got parade boots, but for the recruit training we just had one pair of boots. So we'd be down in the sea that day, and you come back that night. You get back after training, maybe 10, 11 p.m. She'd be up until 1 a.m. trying to pull your boots and get them ready for the next morning. And obviously you're not going to get them perfect because they're still wet. So yeah, that was another life lesson that was valuable.
The hip up all, I was lucky. I got the 2 pairs. We had the Hiax and the Magnums, so we were lucky.
That's the Magnums we
I
had.
think we were the first with him to get that. We were
Yeah.
cushy. We used to get a lot of grief off the driver, so but no, they were driving you places. Like it was grief. But grand. And what was like the most memorable part of training for you? Like any particular like courses or anything that you would have done?
In training, we didn't do any courses, did we? I don't think.
You would have done your different modules.
Yeah, the modules. What was the most memorable part? There's actually so many of them that it's hard to pick. I don't think the most memorable part is anything in relation to courses.
Yeah.
It's just looking back at people's reactions, funny stories from like riot training or learning how your first interactions with the weapons on the firing range.
Yeah.
I suppose I don't really have one that stands out that I could probably say here, but there are some good memories.
Yeah. Do you remember your buddy Dick?
Yes, I do. Indeed. Yes, I do.
Is still in or?
He left just recently, so he
okay.
made it to CQ quartermaster, and then he left recently. And I remember when we first went in, he was from Crumlin and I was from Coolock, and we were very, I suppose, raw civilians, you know. And I remember the training NCO pulling the two of us over and saying, "The reason I'm putting you two together is because I want you out of the army. You two are buddies now, and you will not pass this training." And the two of us, "Okay, Corporal." And from then on, we were highlighted, you know. But it was great.
The black sheep.
That we were definitely the black sheep, but we got through it.
Yeah.
The two of us got through it.
Do you know what though? Like sometimes it's better when that heat is on you because it makes you more determined to get through it.
Yeah. And by the end, we were quite highly rated, you know. So it was good, but definitely the first, I would say, 10 weeks, we were the black sheep, and the NCO wanted us out. Like we couldn't do anything. We couldn't march. We couldn't pull boots. We were two young kids coming in, couldn't make a bed. You know, even shaving, we're like, how do we do this?
Grand. Alright, so you're out training then, and you're up to the 5th Battalion then in Dublin, eh?
Yeah, 5th Battalion in McKee.
How was that?
That was okay. Good and bad. It was a high performance unit, you know. So initially I went into A company, which was great. I spent, I think, 3 years in A company. No, I don't know. I was having this chat with one of my friends who's now in the MPs, and he was like, "You were definitely in A company 3 years." I thought I was only there a year, so my memory is.
It kind of blurs though after.
Yeah, it does, yeah. So we would have went to McKee in 2000, and just towards the end of 2005, we joined in 2005.
Yeah.
And then we passed out, went straight to McKee, went to A company, and then I think after my overseas trip, I joined support company, which was amazing. I liked support company, I think, a bit more than A company. But I think McKee was great, to be honest. I do think, and I was still young, I was 21, 22, like all my time there before I think we moved out to the Brewer when I was 25. So from like 18 up until 25, you're still a young soldier, you're still a young man. You're there with all your friends. You're right beside the city centre, so on weekends or whatever you can go in, McKay was great. We had the park there, so we would do our 10-kilometer run every morning in the park.
Yeah.
McKay was really a learning experience.
Yeah. Well, I didn't like McKay, but I think that's because I was like the brewer shoe and shoe, right?
Yeah.
But I remember being on the mortar course over in with the 5th Battalion and going on runs during that course, like out in the park. It was great.
Yeah. Well, that was the competitive side. The 5th Battalion and the 7th Battalion. I'm surprised they
The
merged.
2nd Battalion,
Yeah. I'm sorry, the 2nd. Yeah. I'm surprised they merged us into the 7th because we were the competitive Dublin units,
Yeah.
you know.
Hate each other.
Yeah, it was the same. We hated the brewer. Then once I went there, I got familiar with them. It was a good barracks.
They're
Yeah.
all sound.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Grant. And in terms of like your own military career, then did you do many courses like that were specific to the army?
Yes, I done the majority of courses that was specific to the army. So I unfortunately I got none of the courses that I applied for. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
got
It's difficult.
yeah, I applied for the chef's course, didn't get it. I applied for the photography course, didn't get it. So I done all of the required courses in the unit. So like I done the 0.5, the mortar, the recce commander, all these.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I applied for them. It's just when I was brought into A company initially, the CS said you're on this course. Okay, CS.
Yeah.
And then when I got transferred into support company, I needed to do the support company side of the courses.
Yeah.
And you're put in. And I do think as well, while I enjoyed those side of things, I think not getting any of the courses that I put in for sort of disenchanted my view of the army. And that's what made me apply for college and thinking, yeah, maybe this isn't where I want to be long term, because while I'm getting good military courses, I'm not getting anything that would possibly benefit me on the outside should I ever decide to yeah.
And going into the army, like, did you have a leaving cert or anything, like academic qualifications going in, or?
No, I was very raw. So I spent from like 15 until 18 homeless before I joined the army, and then I got lucky to get into the army, but I didn't really do any schooling or anything like that. It'd be lucky if I could read a book back then, but yeah, so no, I had no intentions of even joining the army. Like, this is what I give the army a lot of credit for turning me and steering my life the way it's gone now. I had no intentions of joining the army. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a young, sort of lost teenager. And I wasn't, I'd like to say I was a mature teenager. I wasn't. You know, I was maybe, like when I joined the army, I was 18 with a 13-year-old head on me, probably. And my father lived away for a few years and came back. And he put the paperwork in for me to join the army.
Right.
And he just put in, I've always been quite competitive. At that age, I just wanted to be a boxer. I was a competitive boxer, and that's what I wanted to do. But he put the paperwork in for me to join the army. And he knew once I got that interview and the fitness test, that my competitive side would be like, I'm not failing this.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it. That took me on that whole path. But I knew nothing about the army. Literally, and that shows in the first day when I went in thinking I'd be home that day. Recruit training.
And so that's when I bumped into, was on like a boxing competition in the 5th Battalion ran like the army boxing competition. That's when I bumped into you. But were you boxing like long before you joined the army then, or?
I started boxing at I think 14 or 15. So I was doing about 4 or 5 years, but I was at a competitive level. When I joined the army, I was like the Dublin champion. However, when I joined the army, there was no boxing in the army.
Yeah.
It's only when I started law school that they brought boxing back into the army, and that's when I got onto the army team and things like that. But at that stage, it was too late for me. Like, sports wasn't going to keep me in the army then, you know. It was like...
Yeah, that's because I know it was big, right, when like Michael Crute and Phil Sutcliffe would have been in, like boxing would have been big in the army. Then it kind of died off for a while, and then it kind of picked back up around the time we were on that boxing competition. Yeah. And it's just got bigger and bigger now. They've got full fixed boxing ring now in the ring.
Yeah, it's huge now, and they've some amazing boxers in the military now.
Yeah.
When we were there, it was literally just starting. It only brought in the all-army competition again.
Yeah.
I think that was the last 2 years that I was there was the all-army competition. And like, but it was great. That camp was great.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. 6 weeks of just pure boxing.
Yeah, 6 weeks of pure boxing. Training like a professional, you know.
Yeah. 3 times a day or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, you go up in the morning, you do your fitness, then you do your skill work and your strength and conditioning, and it was great. That was probably my one of my happiest times in the army,
Yeah,
and it was a
great.
great bunch of lads as well.
Yeah, that's because you're only in first year in DBS at that stage, right? Doing the law degree. Or second
No,
year.
I think it was in my second year
Yeah.
in DBS doing my law degree. And was it second? Yeah, it was my second year. And then my third year I finished. So I started the law degree in 2009.
Yeah.
Came back from overseas in 2008, started the law degree in 2009, completed that in 2012. And then I was doing my bar exams. I was planning to become a barrister.
Yeah.
And I passed my bar exams, planning to become a barrister, and I applied for JP Morgan and got recruited for JP Morgan. And at that point I was weighing up, right, do I want to continue on the route of a barrister?
Yeah.
Knowing that I'd have to do 2 years sort of deviling unpaid work per year, or do I want to have a shot at finance?
Yeah.
And that's when I took the leave of absence, went into JP Morgan, done a year there, and during my time in JP Morgan I started my MBA, done that, and then also applied for Lidl. I thought I'd try something else. Applied for Lidl, went into their management training program,
Yeah.
which was great. I've a lot of time for Lidl, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And at the end of the few months with Lidl, I was like, no, I think I'd rather go back to the financial sphere. Yeah.
And so when you first started that kind of law degree in the 5th battalion, because I know when I met yourself, right, and I think there was like 2 or 3 other lads doing that course, and I was like, geez, I'd love to get educated. So I think you gave me the information where to go, and told me there was an open night, and I went down and went on and done the same course, right? But when you went in like to your CS or whatever it was, your company sergeant, and said, look, I want to go, did you have to go and ask, could you go to college and not be put on duties these nights? Or did you just go to college and just hope for the best?
So I went and asked, I done the correct route. So I applied for the army to pay for college. Now what the college course was €15,000, and the army paid €800, I think, of that 15,000. So not much, but I knew that was the backing. So what happened was the first year was a bit hard, and I think that the CS and the company commander got a bit sick of me battling, as in like they'd have me on a duty or down the glen, and I'd be like, I can't do that, I have college that day.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well look, the army has paid for, like, the army's giving me the backing, you know, trying to. So for the first year it was sort of on and off, but then from the second year I was put up off the lines onto the sergeant major's office.
Right. And
that was fine then. You know, once you're off the lines, you know yourself, it becomes more like a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
So I'd be in the office 9 to 5, and then college would start at 6. I'd be in college from 6 till 10 in the evening, and then that was fun. That's all I wanted then.
Yeah.
So the army did back me, and they were very helpful.
Yeah.
But the first year there was probably a bit of friction, and that's understandable, because at the end of the day, the military was my job.
Yeah.
You know, like do you know any other job where you go in and you'd say, look, no, I can't do that, I'm doing a course. You know, so like looking back on it fairly, the army were very accommodating, and they did help a lot more than what I think other jobs would.
Yeah, I think that there was like I said it like on another one, like there was a bit of friction at the start. Like, it's like almost didn't believe me that I was going to go to college. He's like, we'll come back with a receipt. So here's me like a week later, I'm back with a receipt for $5,000. I was like, it's like, oh no. And he was like, yeah, okay, you'll be on duty every week, every weekend. So it's grand. But yeah, they did back me as well. So I have to give them a shout out for that. But again, so you decided did you do the masters while you were in the army then as well? So
I done, well, yes and no. So technically I was still part of the army, but I was on my 2 years secondment.
So you took 2 years, a 2-year career break. So
2-year career break.
You can do that after what year?
After year 5.
After year 5, you can take a year career break, and you can extend then up to 5 years. Can you?
I don't know. I think it's 3 years.
Okay,
but I could be wrong on that. It could be 5
wrong
years.
as well. I'm just making it up. Grand. So so you can take a career break after 5 years. So you took 2 years.
2-year career break. Yeah. And
that's when you worked for JP Morgan Little and done the masters, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I done the MBA at night, same thing, just continued it on through, and then worked for JP Morgan and Little, to get. Cause I knew at that point, once I finished law school, or once I started law school, my mind was already made up that I would not be in the army full time, you know, or forever. I just was waiting for the right opportunity to leave. And you know yourself, the army becomes such a big part of your life, such like it gets ingrained into you, that leaving is terrifying. You know, you're leaving almost like a brotherhood, a family, for something that just seems so alien and foreign, outside. Like well, for me anyway, it was terrifying leaving the army. So it took a bit of time I wanted to dip my toe in the outside water without actually letting go of the boat.
Yeah, I was saying I went back, like I said it again in our podcast, but I went back I went back once and then left again, then I was done then, but I nearly went back again. I was nearly going back up saying, like during COVID, I was like, I wonder will I try to go back, I was like, no, can't go back now. You're out too long.
I had the same, so when I initially left in 2017, as I said, I went to London working on a trading floor, and after the working on the trading floor in London, I got an option to move to Shanghai as a partner with another asset manager, and I moved to Shanghai. So I was in China when COVID broke out. I was actually giving a talk in Wuhan the day before Wuhan went into lockdown. So we have partnerships with a number of private colleges, Harrow and places like that over there, and a number of the senior people within the company would go around and, you know, give talks to children and, you know, these sort of things. So I was giving a talk in Wuhan, got the train back to Shanghai. Wuhan went into lockdown, and literally 2 weeks later, Shanghai went into lockdown. So I was locked down. My first 8-week lockdown was in Shanghai. And once that lifted, a number of the partners or associate partners were like, okay, we're getting out of here until it calms down. Still thinking that 5 weeks and it'll all be over. So I flew back to Ireland. I had left everything in my apartment there, apart from like my necessary paperwork and my laptop. Left all my suits, left everything. Came back to Ireland, and the whole of China went into lockdown. We were offered redundancy then, you know, for any of the partners who weren't on site in China. They said, look, we can take redundancy. I was still a young man, so I was thinking, take redundancy, I'll do something for a year, I'll take a year off work. But I've been working since 18, I've never done like a year off work, you know. I said, I'll take a year off work, and 2 weeks later, after taking redundancy, Ireland and the whole world went into lockdown. So I suppose the point of the story is when that happened and the military said, well, we'll take people back, I was thinking maybe you'll go back as well.
Why did you decide not to go back? Just you couldn't do it again? Or?
I knew it wasn't for me.
I
knew it wasn't for me, and I knew it would pass. So instead of going back, I decided to do another master's during COVID, just to just to pass the time. I knew that if I went back to the military, it would only be a stopgap measure, like it'd be a year, and I didn't want to go through the rigmarole of getting back in for a year, so I thought I'll do something else with my time.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I want to be back in, as soon as it's all over I'll leave again, so there's no point. But yeah, and how did you find then, right? So once you decided to kind of sign off after the 2-year career break, how did you feel? Like, how did you find? Was there like an even bigger transition or more fear there than once you signed off then after the 2-year career break?
I don't think there was fear signing off and being totally away from the safety net of the military. There was fear there, but the transition wasn't as bad because I had that 2-year working in civilian world. Whereas my first month working in civilian world, like when I first went into the bank, and they asked me to do something, like, where's this paperwork? I was like, what, you actually checked that? You know? So I was like, that was a big transition. But because I had done that, leaving after those 2 years, the only real sort of fear was, where am I going now? Because I didn't have a job. I had interviews, but I didn't have a set job at that time, you know? Luckily enough, I was only 2 weeks, and then I was over to London on the trading floor, But for me, the fear was just that total leaving, you know, just leaving that safety net. And as well, there was a bit of sadness in not seeing your friends every day that you would see every day, and you know, you're sort of pulling away from that. But I suppose that was also cushioned because a lot of the lads that I had trained with, a lot of the older lads at that stage weren't in the 7th Battalion anymore. I'd been up in the Major's office for so long at that point that a lot of them had gone on to their own numbers in sort of the Air Corps or had left. So there wasn't a lot of sort of close individuals. It was more the young lads on the lines then, you know.
Yeah, it's always like the lads that you trained with, like that you're closest with. Like even if you don't see them for like weeks on end, like they're the ones that you probably still stay in touch with like the most.
Yeah, or the lads. So I'd stay in touch with a lot of the lads. I was on the way with a few of the guys that I trained with there a few weeks ago. But also some of the lads that I was overseas with.
Yeah,
I'd stay. I'm pretty close to a lot of them. I'd stay in touch regularly, meet up. One of them is actually the godfather of my son. So you do meet people outside training, but for me it was training or overseas, and that's where those sort of brotherly bonds were formed.
Yeah. See, I shared a room with one of the lads that I trained with when I was overseas. So
okay, so did I actually. So did I.
You're always in trouble. Messing. Grand. And so you're out then. First job then, you went onto a finance floor in London then after you're officially out then, was it?
Yeah, so I went onto a trading floor in London, and that was trading future contracts on equities, shares, stocks and shares, and fixed income products, which are bonds, currencies and commodities. But the commodities mainly were only gold and oil, no real other commodities, corn or silver, anything like that. And it was sort of medium-term trading strategies that we were implementing. That was really a baptism by fire, but very enjoyable.
Yeah. When you first started like your academic journey, right, let's say like doing the law degree, thinking you want to be a barrister and then going on to do the MBA, did you know like finance was the direction you wanted to go in, or like what kind of piqued your interest in like trading?
So I'd always been interested in business and finance, always.
Yeah.
I just didn't have any sort of doorway into that world. I knew no one who'd even really gone to college at that stage. None of my family members at that stage had ever been to college. No one that ever worked in banking. So it was an area that I looked at from afar and thought I'd love to do that. But I didn't know how to get from point A to point B. You know. So initially when I started law school, I was just looking at, I knew I didn't want to be in the army, and I thought, well, because I didn't really have a leaving cert or my reading, writing ability wasn't amazing at that point, I thought I need to test myself, you know, so I'm going to go for what is the hardest degree, and a law degree probably isn't the hardest degree, but in my mind at that time, law school was like, it's up there, So it's like, if I can do that, I can do anything. So that's the only reason I done law. And then because I was in law school, I was like, well, I'll become a barrister. You know, I'll become a barrister. And then I applied through that open day for JP Morgan. And once I got that, I knew this is actually my doorway into finance, investment banking. And then once you get in there, like finance is such a broad area. I knew that I wanted to be more in front office, so like sort of trading, portfolio management, that side of things. Whereas when I went into JP Morgan, I was middle office, so slightly different, more accountancy focused within private equity. And it was just then, right, how do I make that step? But I think the best step for me was the law degree. I think education is the great equalizer. And what I mean by that is you don't need to do college if you're that way inclined. Some people are entrepreneurial, you can just set up a business and go. What education done for me was it gave me the confidence to be like, wow, we can do this. You know, I am on that level or just as good as anybody else. So I have this and I can apply, and it opened the doors, and I've kept that going forward. I don't like, education is probably the key to the door, let's say, and it gets the foot in the door. But it's not the be all and end all, I found anyway. I'd agree. I definitely think it's important, like, and I'm from like a working class background as well, like I definitely think like education is important to level up and increase like, You're 100% correct, and if that's all it is, it opens the door. Doesn't mean you'll be successful once you get in that door.
You still have to execute.
Exactly, but it's so hard to open that door without education or some type of connections. And as I said, like, if you're an entrepreneur, you can probably set up a company and just go with it and do well, you know, no matter what. But I knew I would never recreate the wheel. You know, I knew I was never going to set up the next Facebook. I could run Facebook and improve it, but I'd never invent it, you know, so that's the way I used to think of things, and getting it educated and getting my foot in the door and then climbing through was mine, I suppose, way.
Yeah, to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even I don't think a lot of people know as well, because a lot of people do want to become barristers or whatever and go do the law degree, but then when they get to like the King's Inn side of things and it's the 5 exams in 5 days just to get in the door, and then it's like once you finish, then what's it, a year is it in the King's Inn?
Yeah, so it's a year or 2 years part-time.
2 years part-time.
And then at the end you have to do a deviling, which is a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
They recommend 2 years, of course they would.
Yeah,
but it's a year or 2 years. Free labour, yeah, you're not paid.
Yeah.
You know, and that is fine if you come from a family with money, but I couldn't afford. I had a young son at that stage. There's no way I could. I could not work. I could work for 2 years without getting paid.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that was a huge thing, a huge barrier for me in completing my deviling or fulfilling the route as a barrister.
Yeah. But even once you're in the door, then you can't canvass for business as well, and it's very hard then to get work as well. So that's what kind of turned me off it. And then I just went down the business route. But Grant, so you finished up then, and you came back to Ireland then once you're finished in London, and.
No, I went straight from London to China.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I went from London to Shanghai. Now I was back in Ireland.
Like, in between.
Yeah. So I went straight from London to China and spent 2 years in China, or just under 2 years. Was it? No, 3 years actually. Sorry, in China. 2 years and 7 months.
2 years. There you go.
2 years and 7 months. Yeah, trying to get my times correct. But I was back and forth between Ireland and China at that time.
And was that pretty much like the same thing that you were doing in like the trading, or was it different?
So China was more portfolio management, but it's also managing the business side of things. So China was actually really a great opportunity to learn. And what happened was I had went to a networking event and I had met with the senior recruiter for the company I was with, which was St. James's Place Wealth Management. Which was good, and I met with the senior recruiter and we were just having talks, and we were talking about like business and economics, all very geeky stuff. Yeah. But it was stuff that we enjoyed, and he said, look, we're hiring for an associate partner role in China. You'd be running your own business over there, you'd be running the office. Would you be interested? And I was thinking, this fella's having me on. Like, there's no way. Like, you know, I'd only been working apart from the year in JP Morgan, but I'd only been working on the trading for 6 months, 7 months at this stage. There's no way I'm going from literally a junior analyst role to going up to partner level in 7 months. Like, no, he's having me on. But anyway, he gave me his business card and he's like, here you go, have a look at that. So he's like, if you're serious, give me a call tomorrow. I didn't even ring him the next day, I texted him. Hey, nice to meet you. I won't say his name, he knows who he is. It was great to meet you last night. Look, amazing conversation. I'd really be interested in that. And he rang me. He's like, okay, when can you fly to Shanghai? He's like, I think it was a Tuesday or something like that. He was like, I'll have a car pick you up on Thursday. So I flew to Shanghai on Thursday and got there on the Friday morning, Friday night, I can't remember. And then they had me put up in a hotel. They had a driver going around. But we went into the office on the Saturday. He had people to meet with me. And so he said, how are you getting on? And I knew nothing about this, like the military as well. I knew nothing about the recruitment process that they were going to put me through. And there was a number of other quite senior individuals, like all men in their late 40s, early 50s, from around Asia and Australia that were interviewing for these positions as well. I think there was 8 in total. And they were like, so have you all got your business plan prepared? And they were all like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. You know, I didn't even know we had to have a business plan. And this was the Saturday night we were doing our what they call a Dragon's Den interview. So the interview is you go in on the Monday, and the 4 heads of business for Asia are sitting there at the table, and you have to present to them a business plan on how you will improve the business and you know, basically how you can benefit the organisation. I knew nothing about this.
Just winging it.
recruiter had literally sent me out there in a long shot, but he said he really felt something about me, which was lucky. I suppose very lucky.
Yeah.
I went over there, and then everyone in the group were like, "Yeah, we're going for a pint tonight. We go for beer." And I was like, "Oh no, I'll catch up with you later." I was panicking, so I went straight back to the hotel. Yeah, doing a business plan in the hotel room for like the Saturday night and the Sunday. But I went in and I passed in. I was the only one out of that group that was hired.
Yeah.
So I was straight in. I was flown over, and then it was just all go from there. You know, you're managing clients, you're helping develop portfolios, you're managing the business side of things. So like deciding marketing budgets, where you're going to host marketing events.
Right.
That was a baptism by fire, but
yeah.
I think it was another thing that the army benefited me on.
Yeah, you just get out.
Panic and silence, panic and silence, and just do it. You know, what's the worst that can happen? Either they'll say you're not cut out for this, or you'll get it. So
get through. Yeah. That's a big thing with the army. It's just adapt.
Adapt and overcome.
Just get it done. Well, yeah, fair play to you. And then obviously COVID happened. Then you moved back then, and then you're back in Ireland. Then are you with two more companies before you with the company you're with now? Or?
No. So initially when I came back to Ireland, as I said, I was planning to travel, and I'd done the masters, and I still started figuring out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I went into sort of a risk and consultancy company. That's now merged to become a larger entity. That was called DMS Governance, and it's now become Waystone. And my role in there was within, I suppose, the AML risk sphere.
Okay, yeah.
So categorizing AML risk, analysing hedge funds and investment banks or fund managers normally, and assessing them from an AML perspective. And that's when I decided, I think I'll stay in this for a while, and I've moved on from there to the company I'm with now.
What does AML stand for?
Anti-money laundering.
Okay. So.
And it's quite a large area, because what it basically boils down to is understanding businesses.
Right.
Okay, so if you're looking for irregularities from AML, you need to know what a business is doing. So you're looking for irregular, non-business related transactions.
Okay.
You can only tell that by understanding what the businesses are doing, and then it's like you can boil it down to its most simple level of collecting due diligence documents, what corporate governing documents you can collect from different funds, whether it be an LP-GP relationship or an LLC or a limited company, understanding how they interconnect, and then I suppose reporting on that and developing risk frameworks to protect your organisation around them.
And you're basically subcontracted into a number of different companies to check these things out then before something happens, or how does it work for you?
Now I'm full-time employed, so I'm an AML Director with the company I'm with now.
Yeah.
And I suppose my role there is to streamline the AML procedures for the first line of defence, and help suggest improvements to the overall AML procedure. So I was initially brought in as the AML expert, so conducting reviews as well, but primarily developing processes and procedures, updating risk frameworks to adapt to the evolving market. So at the moment, my company was heavily focused on, although they've offices everywhere, their primary bread and butter was UK and Irish pensions.
Okay.
So pension funds, whether it be like large pension funds, but what pension companies are normally broken down, they're low risk, very low risk.
Yeah.
But they're trusts. If you break it down to a legal framework standpoint, it's just a trust structure. So assessing the trust structures, and the procedures are brilliant for that. But now that they're moving into more exotic locations, they're also going to be moving into more exotic legal frameworks for companies, whether it be LP-GP relationships, whether it be LLC relationships, publicly limited companies, and all of these carry different risks which need to be quantitated and assessed, and then you're putting a qualitative overlay on that to state, right, this is what we need.
Yeah. Okay, so quite an interesting job, right? And varied as well.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Yeah.
If someone wanted to become like an AML analyst or specialist, what steps do they have to take in order to become like an AML analyst?
in Ireland, it's actually, the area is booming at the moment, AML and compliance, so you don't even need to, I've taken quite a diverse route, I've worked in different areas of finance, but like, first and foremost, you will probably need your degree that will allow you to get, and that can be any degree.
That's what I'm asking, is there any specific degree?
No. There is a specific qualification called the ACAMS, so it's ACAMS, and that's like your professional qualifications, it's like your accountancy, your ACCA for AML professionals. You can get that, which will really open the door for you to get in. Or if you want to take another route, there's a level 7 qualification with the Compliance Institute of Ireland. That's an LCOI. Okay. I don't even think you don't need a degree to do that. So you can do that, and that opens the door to compliance. And AML is a sphere of compliance, compliance risk, and you can move in from that.
And lads or girls that are leaving the army, what advice would you give them like before they left? Like if they're leaving before like 21 or even after 21?
Make sure you're leaving for the right things. So I get a lot of lads. The army is a great job. When there's a lot of security in it. You'll get a pension, you get free healthcare, you get free gym membership. You're with a lot of friends, and a lot of lads just get a pain with the monotony, which is understandable. I get that myself. But then they leave for jobs that are not at the same level just because they want to leave. So I think if the only advice I'd give is if you're planning to leave, make sure you're leaving for the right things and try and set yourself up. Like the army gives people the time to go to college, more so than when you leave and go somewhere else. If you want to go to college or if you want to set up a business, set yourself up for that move, and then the main thing is realise that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I think it's important to realise how beneficial the army is, and I didn't realise that until I left the army. You
don't realise, right? Because you go in at such a young age, right? That they're really formative years from like 17 to 25. Well, I think they increased the age now to 29. You can join that, but like they're really formative years, and you don't really know what the real world is like, when you're in the army, because you're sheltered a little bit from it as well, I suppose. Because they feed you, they clothe you, they put you up in accommodation. So if you wanted, you wouldn't have any bills. It's €40 a week, whatever it is, coming out of your payslip for your accommodation. But you wouldn't have any bills. So like it is important to realise that the grass isn't greener, I suppose. And the army as a whole, then, like, would you recommend it as a career option?
Yes. Once again, it depends. It depends on the person and the individual. The army for me is the best thing I've ever done. It turned my life around. It turned me from an immature teenager into a man. It gave me direction. It gave me confidence, and it definitely put me on the right path. It gave me everything I needed at the time I needed it. Would I say would be the same for everyone? No, because I had my own sort of unique circumstance at that time. So I think if you're, unless you really love the army, or unless it's something that sort of like me can turn your life around, if you're going to college, I think maybe staying on the outside could be better, unless you go in as an officer. But there are huge benefits to joining the army. There are huge benefits. But I don't think those benefits are equal to everyone.
That's fair enough. When you first started in the army, right, how many people started in your platoon, do you remember?
I think 40 started, and I think it was 44 brought in total, because I know a few dropped out in the first week. And then I think 4 more were brought in, but I could be wrong on those numbers.
Do you know how many finished then, like the last day 3-star training? So how many passed out?
I think there was 15 of us that passed out.
Right.
I think it was 15 that passed out 3-star training, and give or take, it could be as high as 17 or as low as 11. So give or take. 15, I think.
Mine's the same. I think it was like 54 or 57. I can't remember. And then it was like 25, 27 passed out. So
it's a high attrition rate.
Some people though have been on. They said like they trained with like 3 platoons, and it was a fairly low attrition rate, which I was like kind of surprised on. Must have got handy.
We don't know what that is.
They got too handy. But I don't reckon. I don't think it's for everyone, but I think it's the right place for some people at the wrong time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course it does. And that's it exactly. The army is a great job. And I would back sort of like, if you're not in college at say 18 and you're not doing anything, everyone to go into the army for 2 years to 5 years, because it gives you that direction. It allows you to mature in a setting where you're still getting your wage, you're still doing your physical training, you're getting, it allows those extra years to I suppose develop, and it can help you develop.
Yeah. Do you know if they, not about it's a 5-year contract, right, when you first joined, do you
Yeah.
think if they lowered it to a 2-year contract that you would have left sooner than you did? Or would you, do you think you still would have went to college and things like that, like if you had it?
I don't know, that's a good question. I don't think I would have left after 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have left after 2 years. I knew quite quickly after getting to the unit that the army was not for me. I just didn't know what way to go. And it took me maybe a year of sort of self-talk, you can do this,
Yeah.
to decide college was the right route, because as I said, I had very little education at that point. So it took me a bit of time. I don't think I would have left after 2 years, simply because I did really enjoy the military. And even at that point, I realised, although sometimes I hated it, I realised at that point how beneficial of a job it was, like the benefits it gives you. And as an enlisted man, as a young private, especially now, back when I joined, I think the wage was better. But the wage is quite low. But if you look at it as a package, as in, like, if you look at it as an overall package, you get your pension, you get your healthcare, as I said, free gym, free food and accommodation, well, basically free food and accommodation. Like, there are so many benefits to it as a young man.
Yeah, definitely. I think the overall package, right, compared to like what's out in the civilian world, it's not that bad, right? I think where the problem seeps in, right, is that, like, let's say if you have a dependent or a kid or whatever, and you have a partner, it's very hard for your partner to have a second income, right? Because the army, you can go into work, right, and you're told you're going to go for 5 days, and your partner's meant to be in work, but like, who's going to mind the kid in the evening, or who's going to mind the kid that day? Who's going to do the skill run or whatever? So it's harder for the family unit as opposed to the individual, right? So it's good if you're a single man, but once you start becoming, father or getting partners, and life becomes more serious, and you have like a mortgage, it gets harder then, and the lifestyle of a soldier doesn't always suit with what's happening in the civilian world.
Yeah, the lifestyle, you're 100% correct. The lifestyle part of it, especially in active units like what we were in, is very difficult, because you go in, it's like you're on duty tomorrow. But my son has a skill play. Well, I don't care. You're on duty tomorrow. Well, I've known it to my son. I don't care. You're on duty tomorrow. And luckily enough, I always had someone there to help with my son when he was younger. But not everyone has that. No. Some people literally don't have someone to mind their son or their daughter or whatever that may be. Yeah. So yeah, that is definitely a huge consideration.
Yeah, I think that's where, like, from a financial point of view, I think that's where the real strain is. And I know, like, some lads have struggled, like, a lot, like, with that financial strain, because they don't have that support system outside of the army to cope with what's happening in there.
And there is no support in the army, as in like whether it be young male soldiers with young children or young female soldiers with young children. Like, there's no sort of daycare in the army. There's no living quarters for the kids.
Yeah.
So as soon as you have children, life changes, yeah, and the army don't accommodate that in any way. It's still the do as you're told mentality. There is no okay, you're a single father, you're a single mother. Well, we don't care, get onto that duty. Whereas it could be a lot easier if they had a creche in a kindergarten in the barracks. Put money into that, so people aren't then paying the huge fees for kindergarten outside. But also, if someone's like, well, you're on a duty, the child can be minded here for. It gives that added flexibility, but there's no outside the box thinking there.
Yeah, that's what I think the majority of the problems come from. Now, I could be wrong. I think there's a lot more problems and a lot more things that need to be ironed out, right? But I think that's like one of the major things that, like, affect morale, like, of the individuals that are in there. Is that kind of, like, outside life and the financial strain that can put on the family. But do you have anything else?
No.
Yeah, I was having. Thanks for coming in.